everyone, Sabrina here, Books at the Worm Bag, with a book review for Catherine by Essie Fox. Now, I originally received an ARC of this from the publisher, Orenda Books, so I'll leave a link to them down below. This is a retelling of Wuthering Heights from Catherine's point of view. Now, there will be spoilers for Wuthering Heights in this, because I can't talk about this without talking about Wuthering Heights. So if you've not read Wuthering Heights, or you know absolutely nothing about it, and very lucky you, because, you know, obviously this book has been around like 250 years now, people. There will be spoilers, so that's your warning. Anyway, Catherine. So this is a retelling of Wuthering Heights from Catherine's point of view after she has died in the midway point of the original book. So she comes out as this ghost because Heathcliff has opened up her grave and has been crying on her and how much he misses her and all that. Ugh, creepy. And she wakes up as a ghost. And then we get like the flashback of her childhood, all the events of the beginning of Wuthering Heights, but from Catherine's point of view. So for me, because I read Wuthering Heights back in 2019, I think, I hated Catherine, I hated Heathcliff. I thought they were terrible, awful people. I really did not enjoy them as either a couple or just as characters, and I thought Wuthering Heights was like a brilliant description of what pettiness and revenge and hate does to generations of families. It's not a romance story, people. It's not a romance story. This, because it's from Catherine's point of view, enabled me to understand Catherine a lot more. So clearly Essie Fox understood the book a hell of a lot more than I did 6 years ago. Thank you so much. And it kind of makes Catherine a lot more sympathetic. You understand her wild flits of emotion. You understand where she's coming from as a child. Because it's not a third person telling somebody what Catherine and Heathcliff have done as kids, because it's Catherine telling you herself what she's done as a child, it makes more sense, the actions that are happening, the fact that Catherine is wild and impulsive. You know, she suffers from incredible highs, but also greatest of despairs. You know, she can be vindictive and malicious, and at the same time the most loving and caring person going. She is a person of huge contrasts. And then you've thrown in Heathcliff, and obviously we see Heathcliff from her point of view. She's someone she wants to protect. She's someone she feels connected to. She's got someone near her age in this rambling old house where everyone is seen as an adult, even though Nellie's like got to be 16, 17 at the most. Catherine, as a young girl, suddenly has a playmate, someone she can just hang out, and there's no expectations for her anymore to be the good person because she can go and have fun with her brother. I like that we get a bit more understanding of the situation that young Cathy goes through after the death of her mother. I mean, that seems very beautifully handled in Catherine, but her daughter growing up, who I'm going to call Cathy just to keep things okay. So we see Catherine looking after her daughter in the form of ghosts. Even though she can't interact or anything, she's almost like protecting her by ensuring that Heathcliff doesn't overstep his boundaries when he's angry. She's making sure that her daughter is protected from Heathcliff's revenge and hatred of her family. And it's really quite sweet to actually see that she actually would have been a very good mother. She would have cared for her daughter immensely. And to see some of that come through is really, really lovely. I like the moor is still a huge part of this story. One of the things about Wuthering Heights is the moors are very important. They're a character in their own right. The weather on the moors reflects the mood of the characters. And obviously it haunts Heathcliff after Catherine has died, and we see the moors very much a part again of this version, that the weather influences ghost Catherine, the weather influences young Cathy, that the aspect and the nature of the moors encourages Catherine and Heathcliff growing up, their wild nature, their need to be free from what society is trying to conform and to be, particularly young Catherine, who is basically faced with growing up, getting married, having kids and dying at a young age. While I was reading this, I was watching some documentaries about Wuthering Heights and about Emily Bronte. I was looking into a bit of the history and the time period and everything, which I think a lot of people forget when they read these classics, that they were contemporary at the time. And one of the most horrific facts I found out was the average age for that part of Yorkshire in the time period that Wuthering Heights was written was something like 24. I mean, that's so young by today's standard, 24. And it's like, it just kind of explains why the emotions in Wuthering Heights are so high. Because when you're looking at barely making it to your 30s, you are going to fall in love, and fall in love hard. You are going to start your family young because you've no idea if you're going to make it through. The fact that Catherine dies in childbirth, it's like that was almost like a normal. Childbirth was extremely dangerous for women at this time period. And again, I think we forget just how much we take for granted that medical advancements have ensured that childbirth is not such a fatality anymore. Obviously it still happens, but not to the extent there where young women were actually fearing having a child because like, am I going to make it out of this? So that whole scene of her, giving birth and dying, and it's just like, oh yeah, and she's 18. She's 18 at this time. So, that reality of dying so young in that time period is going to affect the emotions and the speed that things happen. The fact that Heathcliff and Cathy are very passionate to each other. They are soulmates. I mean, they go on about, whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same. We are two parts of the same person. There's a lot of that. And it's like, yeah, they exist together. It doesn't mean there's anything sexual in their relationship growing up. It just means that they have this connection that is almost, it's pure. I would say it's more of a pure love rather than a lustful love. It is a love where you just find the person that makes your whole life make sense and your whole world suddenly feels complete because you've met that other person. And it doesn't have to be a romantic sexual relationship. It can just be a pure love relationship. So that's very much how the romance in here is portrayed. And, obviously they grow up, they become adults. I say adults, 18, 19. And so all those feelings bubble to the surface and it becomes the romantic love that everybody dramatises Wuthering Heights as. Whereas I think Essie Fox has done really well in the way that she concludes the story, that more innocent, pure love is the key to it. And I really liked that. We have all the major heats from Wuthering Heights in here. So Heathcliff goes off 3 years after Catherine has got married. He goes and finds out who he is. And we find out what might have been for that. So there is an explanation of where Heathcliff came from, who his father is, who his mother is and all that. It's an opinion. It fits quite well with the storyline. It makes sense. We obviously have the whole Heathcliff being haunted by Catherine's ghost and everything. Those scenes are all in here. All the key beats of Wuthering Heights in here. Essie hasn't really deviated at all from the storyline. It's just the way it's told, because it's more intimate, is just lovely. And it feels more personal, which I really, really liked. There is a sex scene in here, which surprised me because I honestly couldn't remember if there was one in Wuthering Heights or not. But I kind of like how it's done. It's not like gratuitous or completely explicit or anything. It just kind of feels natural for that point in Catherine and Heathcliff's life, and it just happens. And it's kind of like, it's not romantic or anything, it's just something that happens. I think it's really well done. But I am sitting here going, is there a sex scene in Wuthering Heights between Catherine and Heathcliff? I generally can't remember, particularly as we've just had the Emerald Fennell's film that's just come out, which is all sex between the two of them. And it's like, I generally can't remember. So I'm going to have to reread Wuthering Heights, I think, with this as a new perspective. And I'll certainly be looking at it a bit deeper for obviously all the class references, the prejudice references, the racism references, again, which are all present in here. Heathcliff is a young man of colour, no ambiguity, straight up. Yeah, he's an outsider because of the colour of his skin. So I need to reread the original, I think, with like a few years growth experience and, with a new insight to it, and obviously understand a bit more about the time period and the history. There we go. So if you have read Wuthering Heights, I do recommend Catherine because I think it does add to it, and also The writing is beautiful. It is like reading Emily Bronte. It's so well done. This is not like a modern reimagining. It's so respectful to the original text. It's very beautifully told. So if you've read Wuthering Heights, I highly recommend Catherine. If you haven't read Wuthering Heights and want to like a way into it, because Wuthering Heights it's not an easy book to read. It's not one where you just pick it up and dive in. So if you are like looking at Wuthering Heights going, I want to read it, but I'm a bit intimidated by it, or actually I'm struggling, one, audiobook. I can't get a good audiobook version, or give this a go, because this will give you all the beats in a very similar way to the story being unravelled, but also it gives it in a way that is accessible, I would say, without losing anything that Wuthering Heights has. There we are. And if you are a fan of Wuthering Heights, you can't go wrong with having a go at this book, because it is amazing and I really, really love it. I'm just going to say the hardback edition, the publishers have done an amazing job. This is gorgeous. Yeah, it's just beautiful. Like I said, I got an ARC, so I didn't get this. I got a very pretty paperback art version, which was really nice. I've actually passed it on to a colleague because they want to read it, and it will go on to another colleague because they want to read it, and I've just said I love this book. So I actually brought this book myself because that's how much I loved the story and how much I thought it did a cracking job of giving us a new perspective of Wuthering Heights. And it's also a beautiful hardbacky edition. These are available on the Waterstones website. I work for them. I know, that's where I get my books from. So this, I highly recommend if you want a beautiful book and you're a fan of classics and you're a fan of Wuthering Heights. I do recommend buying this book, full stop. But you know, if you have any thoughts you want to add, please pop them down below. And I just really recommend this book. And this is coming from a girl who doesn't really read many classics. I really like this. I haven't posted for a while, so I'm going to do the usual YouTube scubbly stuff. So if you like this video, please click the thumb down below and say hi. If you haven't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button. I post sporadically, so you will not be overwhelmed if you hit the notifications button from me. And as always, thank you very much for watching and happy reading.